Thank you all for joining this Mello Monday webinar on European green transition. This is a company operating in the green economy, and very pleased to be here to give you an investor update this evening. I'm actually joining now from Sweden, where we've announced today the completion of our drilling program there. So apologies, the lighting isn't great in this room. The nights are already closing in, and it's dark outside in Sweden already, and only an hour ahead of the UK. But so just in relation to that drilling program that we announced the completion of, there may be some forward-looking statements. We do not have assays yet, so we will talk about the drilling and what that means, but we do not have the assays for that. So just to bring your attention to that. So my name is Aidan Lavelle. I am the CEO of the company. I'm a geologist by training and been working in the metals industry and mainly with small explorers and AIM-listed companies for about 17 years now, but also worked with some of the majors on strategic alliances, including up here in Sweden for 4 years, where I worked with Centerra Gold. So yeah, very familiar and with Sweden, and it's good to be back here. I spent most of the month here helping out with the drilling project as well. So joined by myself here is Jack Kelly. He's on the call. He can introduce himself for any new listeners or newcomers to the company. But just to give the team overview here, we have Cathal Friel. He's the co-founder, non-exec director, and largest shareholder. And some of you may be familiar with him through other companies like hVivo and Poolbeg Pharma, and also Amrit, which had a very successful sale last year. In Sweden, we have our chairman, Daniel Akelsson, and he's been very helpful here on some of the community engagement and stakeholder engagement here in Sweden. He's also very a career with, I suppose, across many companies, also public companies in London, property companies, and he has some historic work experience with resource companies in Sweden. And then also in London, we have James Leahy, our non-exec director, also quite an extensive background in the resource sector. So I'll let Jack introduce himself and take you through the next slide.
Thanks, Aidan. Nice to meet everyone. So I'm Jack Kelly, CFO of European Green Transition. So I'm a chartered accountant. I previously worked in PwC's M&A team in Dublin and joined Cathal Friel's investment vehicle, Raglan Capital, about 3.5 years ago. And in that time, been working across a whole host of AIM-listed companies, including hVivo PLC and Poolbeg Pharma PLC. So I'm just going to take you to the next slide, which, you know, as some of you might know, you know, we IPO'd European Green Transition in April of this year, and we've had a pretty quick and productive first 5 months since our listing. So I just want to take you through some of the key achievements we've made in that time. And then we can talk about what we're looking to do over the coming 12 months or so. So we, as I mentioned, in April we completed the IPO, raising gross proceeds of 6.5 million, which you know, we were very happy about. As part of our IPO, you know, we wanted to shift the business model towards targeting projects in the wider green economy. Initially, we were focused just on resources and exploration, but now we've widened that scope to include 2 options that we've taken in the last couple of months. The first being a 12-month exclusive option on a copper tailings project in Cyprus, which we are continuing our diligence on, and I'll update you on that further in later in the presentation. Additionally, we've taken a 12-month option on a peatland carbon credit and biodiversity credit project up in Donegal in the northwest of Ireland. So this is a hugely exciting space, and again, I'll update you more on our plans for that for the remainder of the option, and how we expect to generate. We hope to generate a near-term revenue from this. Aidan mentioned we've just completed our drill program up at the Alstom Rare Earth project, and this is really to show the district scale potential of the project. And Aidan will take you through a couple of slides in a few moments on that. And then I guess just from a share price perspective, since listing, our first day of trading was the 8th of April. We're up about 30% in that period. So we've come back a bit in the last couple of months, but overall we're pretty happy with where we are, and we see a lot of room for continued growth in the coming months, and we think we'll have a lot of news flow to back that up. So Aidan, I might hand over to you on the next slide.
Thank you, Jack. Yeah, so this map really and the slide shows our current European green economy assets. So the main project we came to market with was the Alstrom rare earth project. That is one of our key assets, and that's where we've just completed our drill program. It's located in South Sweden. A very low risk drill program that was completed to show the district scale potential of the project. And I'm pleased to say the initial findings are very positive, and we're looking at the potential to monetize that now through partnership or sale. In North Sweden, we also have a copper graphite project, which is very exciting, and we are discussing that with several parties who are interested in that project. So our aim is also to monetize that asset. And then more recently, we announced the Cyprus copper tailings project. This is a potential to recover a meaningful amount of copper in a capital efficient manner, and potential also at that historic mine site to develop a solar facility. So a very good location for solar energy in Cyprus. And then in northwest of Ireland, we have the Alton peatland carbon credit project, which Jack will talk more about later in this presentation. But that's really has the potential to develop a peatland carbon sink program and generate carbon credits from that project to get the company towards early revenue. So I'll bring you on to Alstrom. So located in South Sweden, this is 100% owned by the company. It was also a project designated a national interest project by the Swedish Geological Survey in May of last year. And it really is one of a handful of more advanced rare earth projects in Europe with a historic rare earth resource. We see that as really just scratching the surface. It's got huge potential for expansion, and it's located in a region with really good infrastructure, good access, and close to a railway as well. So the aim of the program that we've just completed was to expand the system beyond that historic resource and show that it was much bigger, as we believed it always was. And so I'm pleased to say we did finish ahead of schedule and under budget on that initial drill program, and that will help us to move the project forward with a partnership or to monetize it. So all of the targets that we drilled, they did intersect broad alteration in the host rock and variable phosphate mineralization. And so that's a very positive sign for a much larger mineralized system. And we look forward to the assays, which we expect later in Q4, again, with the aim of confirming the district scale potential at that project. So the mineralization there also is it's phosphate mineralization. We know it can be recovered quite easily. We've done metallurgical test work, which was released in July. And that shows that through simple magnetic separation and flotation, we can separate out the target minerals, the phosphate minerals, and they can potentially be processed at third-party facilities. So simply magnetic separation and flotation. Flotation is a very routine way of separating minerals that's used in most of the world's base metal deposits. So all of the work today has been really aimed at de-risking the project from the initial work done during the due diligence, which was low-cost mapping and ground magnetic surveys right through channel sampling and to identify targets. And now we've drilled those, and that really has de-risked the project along with the metallurgical test work. So that has all been done with the intention to monetize the asset through sale or partnership. So this map shows where we've been drilling. You see, notice the yellow dots on this. So historically, all of the drilling was, or almost all of the drilling was around the southeast of the license area in the Alstrom resource there. But really, when we did the due diligence on this project, we recognized there was much more potential. We identified a shear zone hosted control on the mineralization, and we started our early mapping and sampling work to really identify new targets, and that is essentially what we've drilled on this program. So we did 1,500 meters in total. That was 13 drill holes, 10 of which were up at Jupiter, 2.5 kilometers northwest of the resource. and that was about 1,000 meters in total. So that was essentially 2/3 of the program there. And that Jubedal prospect in itself is a 1 kilometer long strike length, intensely altered rocks. And we identified targets there. Some of them on surface were quite high grade, associated with historic iron ore workings and outcropping mineralized structures. So I'm very pleased to say on every hole we hit what we expected. It's consistent with the surface geology, and very pleased with that outcome. So a lot of alteration in all of that area, and some very nicely sort of altered and mineralized structures, but we await assays for those. And then over at Ulstrom West, about 300 meters northwest of the historic Ulstrom resource, we drilled we drilled 3 holes there for a total of 500 meters. This target again was never drill tested before. In fact, there was only a few historic rock samples. So again, through mapping and our early field work, we identified the target there, the continuation of the mineralization from Ulstrom. And pleased to say again that the core looks similar to what's in the resource. So very broad zones of alteration and some mineralization. So yeah, drill results when they come will support the monetization of this asset. So we're very pleased overall with how the program ran very efficiently, and finished on time and on budget. And just to show you some of what we intersected on the next slide, you'll see some core photos here. So on the top right is essentially the altered granite. This is what we hit in most of our so what we expect to hit when we intersect these mineralized structures. So you can see it doesn't look like granite anymore. The hydrothermal fluid that has gone through here and deposited the rare earth phosphates has completely altered the rock to a darker color. Those dark minerals are biotite and magnetite. So the appearance of the rock and the mineralogy is completely changed by those hydrothermal fluids. And you can see in that picture, there's some coarse minerals. That is the monazite, the rare earth phosphate. So there's a decent amount of that in that first hole at 42.3 meters. That's exactly where we expected the structure to be, vertically beneath one of the historic workings at Jubedal. And a deeper hole there confirmed vertical continuity to about 150 meters. So quite pleased with that. And then in the lower image, you can see that there's a picture of the core from hole 10. And again, you can see the geologists have circled some of those rare earth phosphates in that dark, completely altered granite again. So that's consistent with what we have seen on surface. So right now, following those positive initial observations from drill core, we have completed all the logging. The rig is demobilizing from site as we speak, and the rehabilitation of those drill pads is nearly complete. The core logging is completed. We're sending the core to ALS Minerals in northern Sweden. They will use very efficient automated core saws to cut the core, and then they will also assay the core and analyze it for rare earths. And in the interim, we'll be digitizing all the new data that we've collected and putting that into our 3D models, compiling that for third-party reviews to support the monetization discussions. And just to show you there on the bottom left, that image shows the typical areas where we have been operating. So pretty much everywhere we have drilled is either commercial forestry or just on the edge of commercial forestry. So we've been able to operate from areas that were logged quite recently, as recently as September. So we've had excellent access, able to work from existing machine tracks. So it's been a very efficient program. Again, commercial forestry, so very low impact drilling there. The trees have already been felled and harvested. So that I think summarizes what we've been up to at Ulstrom over the past month and a half. I spent most of the time here myself, getting stuck in with the drill project. So we look forward to the results in later H2.
Great, thanks, Aidan. So just over to the next slide, I'm going to take you through in a bit more detail the Cyprus copper tailings recycling project that we have, and the key focus here really is is getting exposure to copper, with near-term revenue potential, which is a key focus of the business now, getting assets and projects that we can generate revenue from in the near term. So we took a 12-month option over the historic Limni copper mine. So this historically produced 8.1 million tons at 1.11% copper between 1937 and 1978. So it stopped producing around the time of partition in Cyprus. If you look up in the top right-hand image, this is the old this is the pit, and the tailings from the pit were deposited down by the coast, and sat there for about 30 years. And between 2010 and 2012, an EU-funded program basically drove the tailings from the beach up 2 or 3 kilometers, and refilled the pit. So it now looks like it does down in the photo on the bottom right. And as you can see here, so this copper is clearly evident from the outflow of blue metal-rich water circulating within the pit due to the oxidized tailings. So when the tailings were sitting down at the beach, they oxidized. Now the water is mixing with the tailings, and there's you get the result of the blue water flowing out of the pit. And we can talk about that in a bit more on the next slide. But look, I think we mentioned a few times that the reason we want to focus on these projects is that they're near revenue term than your typical exploration play, and we can get it there in quite a capital efficient manner. So the key focus for this and the key goal for our due diligence over this 12-month option period is working towards extracting copper through a low cost hydraulic pumping mechanism, where essentially we'll pump water through the tailings, and then we will be able to take copper from the water, extract copper from the water in a very low cost manner. There's a number of companies that do this, and it's pretty capital efficient to do, and we think can be done in the near term. Additionally, once we have the site rehabilitated, there's potential for a solar plant here. Again, it wouldn't be our objective to build this. We look to partner with an established developer operator, and there's a power substation on site. Cyprus is obviously ideally located to capitalize on a solar plant. It has the highest solar radiance in the EU, and also currently has a huge over-reliance on fossil fuels as part of their energy mix. I think fossil fuels equate to about 80% of their current energy mix. So there's a huge initiative to start bringing renewables projects on, and we think this could result in further upside for this project for us. So in July this year, over the summer, we released results of the first phase of our diligence on this project, and they were very positive. So we had an initial sample program. So we took 68 samples, as you can see across this map, across various locations in the pit. The results confirmed that the presence of copper. So we already knew it, but we were quite surprised that samples ranging from 0.41 to 0.92% were found in the sulfide crust at surface, and they had an average of 0.75%. So this is proof that water was coming up to the surface, was being evaporated, and the copper was staying at the surface. So this is hugely encouraging for the future of the project. As part of our testing, also we identified that there's potential for gold. So there's sample results of up to 1.48 grams per ton of gold. Now, we won't be looking to do any exploration for this gold, but it's an additional string to the bow of this project, and could result in some further upside for shareholders down the line. And at the moment, we're working through progressing through the next stage of diligence, which we'll hopefully be able to update you on in the coming months. So the other project we took an option agreement on shortly after IPO was the Alton Peatland Carbon Credit Program. And similarly, diligence is progressing pretty well on this. So the Alton site is a 1,370 acre site in the northwest of Ireland and County Donegal, so just up around here, if you can see my cursor. So peatlands cover about 1.5 million hectares in Ireland, and about 30% of them are degraded. So the key reason we're focusing on peat is it's the largest and most efficient land-based store of carbon. So peatland stores about 10 times more carbon than any other land-based ecosystem. So there's huge benefits to be delivered by peatland. A number of the landowners in Scotland are already realizing that, and there's huge grants and incentives in Scotland to rehabilitate peat, and we think Ireland will hopefully follow in those footsteps. So, as I mentioned, 30% of the peatland in Ireland is degraded, and this degraded and drained peatland release stored carbon into the atmosphere as CO2, and it releases in huge volumes. A study in Scotland showed that roughly 20% of the annual carbon emissions in Scotland come from damaged and degraded peatlands. So there's huge volumes of carbon entering the atmosphere from these peatlands. And it's pretty simple to get them back operating properly and actually storing and sequestering the carbon, taking it, absorbing it through plants, and then storing it in the ground. So what's EGT's objective for this project really is to develop a highly scalable peatland carbon and biodiversity credit project that we can generate revenue in the near term. And I think the scalable point is really important here. As you can see, there's huge volume of blanket bog on the west coast of Ireland. And we're looking to scale this quite rapidly. We're talking to a number of local landowners, predominantly in the northwest around Donegal at the moment, and with a view to, we see there's huge benefits for the economies of scale in terms of your monitoring, reporting, verification for these projects, and generally the bigger you can get them, the better value you can get from off takers or end users down the line. From a business model perspective, we're still working that out, and we have a number of options, but we want to be very clear that the goal is not to acquire land, not to be purchasing any land whatsoever. We won't be using shareholders' money to do anything like that. It's working in conjunction with the landowners and working on a revenue or a cost or profit sharing model where ultimately we both have skin in the game and upside. That's the real focus. If I just take it down to the box in the bottom left here, around Morgan Stanley, I've said the carbon credit market is projected to grow 50-fold within a decade, from nearly 2 billion in 2022 to nearly 100 billion by 2030, and as much as 250 billion by 2050. So these are really big numbers. Who knows if they'll go that big, but what we can absolutely confirm is we're seeing huge interest from big tech and corporates in nature-based projects in Ireland, in the EU, in the UK, and that's largely driven by goals to move to net zero. And in Ireland, for instance, it's been very well publicized in the news recently that data centers now account for 21% of all electricity consumed on the grid, and this is expected to rise to 27% by 2028. To give you a reference point, in the mid-2010s, this was around 5%. So tech companies in particular are using huge amounts of energy, and renewables projects aren't coming on board quickly enough to meet this. So as these companies move towards their net zero goals to decarbonize, we really feel that credits will have a huge role in this, and particularly local credits in the country where these corporates are operating. I think there's a lot of peace of mind for them to be able to jump in a car and drive 2 or 3 hours up the road and see a project and know that the Irish state is involved in this, and from a monitoring and verification perspective, rather than buying credits from some of these far-flung locations whereby there's been issues around whether the project exists, whether the scale is actually there, and other issues which have damaged the carbon credit market. So look, this is a project we're really excited by, and hopefully we'll continue to update you on it over the coming months. So finally, just last slide, a summary. I just wanted to talk about the upcoming activities we have in the next couple of months, and ones that we really think can drive shareholder returns. So the key priorities for us, to get the assay results from the Alstom Rare Earth project and ultimately continue the monetization discussions we're having with third parties. Secondly is to accelerate our due diligence on the copper project in Cyprus, and hopefully we'll be able to update you on that in due course. Third is really to focus on a scale element of the carbon credit project, and then begin commence carbon credit generation in the near term. The fourth item is to monetize the Pajala copper project, and Aidan, as Aidan said, we're talking to a number of parties on that, and hopeful that we can update you in due course. And the last item is to identify new value accretive opportunities in the green economy. So we're really, as I said, focusing on revenue or near revenue stage opportunities throughout the green economy, and we see a number of attractive propositions, and we look forward to delivering on some of these in the coming months. So that is the end. David, I don't know if you have any questions.
Yes, and a reminder to the audience, do put your questions in the Q&A box and we will endeavour to ask them all, and certainly Aidan and Jack will help us with the answers. So first question up, and thank you, by the way, for the presentation. Thomas wants to know, can you explain the hydraulic pumping for the project in Cyprus further, please?
Sure, yeah, I can jump in there. So basically, we know that the copper is essentially concentrated in the water because of the oxidized tailings that were backfilled into the pit. So by essentially by pumping the water out and putting it through a containerized treatment plant to extract the copper, we can potentially generate some meaningful revenue from that. But essentially, there will be maybe 2 or 3 extraction wells and 2 or 3 re-injection wells. So it's essentially setting up a circulation cell within the pit, within the tailings. And we know there was some roadways put through that as they were backfilling, which would be coarser material that would help the permeability. So that's also an important factor. So yeah, I hope I've explained that, but there will be injection wells and extraction wells and a containerized treatment to extract the copper.
Yeah. Now, Martin wants to know, what other opportunities does the company have under review, and when can we expect an update on those?
Yeah, David, I can jump in on that one. So obviously there's only so much we can mention, but we've publicly stated we really want to move towards revenue or near revenue stage opportunities that we can, in the wider green economy. Initially, we were just focused on exploration a couple of years ago, and we've really widened our remit. So we're looking at things in the wind, solar space, largely around the services around the periphery of that, where you have revenue generating businesses. We've looked in the recycling space. Obviously, we've taken our options agreements on the carbon credit project in Donegal, and also on the tailings recycling project in Cyprus. So we're only 4 or 5 months post IPO, so we still see a number of opportunities, and also I think the monetization of Alstom and of Pajala should give us additional firepower to bring in other opportunities. So we're pretty excited about a few things we're looking at the moment, and hopefully we'll be able to update you all in due course.
Now, when you find these projects, do you have competition for them? Are there others? I mean, who are the competition to European green? Do you find there are others that get there before you when there's something that you feel you could do?
Yeah, well, it's very project specific, but sometimes we like the sort of hairier or rougher around the edges projects. It's something we've I suppose Cahill and the guys in Raglan Capital have shown that they've been very successful in taking businesses that haven't necessarily been performing too well and to start operating them more effectively. There's also obviously your traditional businesses who are working quite well and just don't have the ability to scale and coming in and actually into a public company offers them the ability to grow their business pretty quickly. So yeah, look, there's a whole host of competition. It's a competitive space, but there are lots of opportunities and it's a market that's growing very quickly.
Yeah. And now another question here regarding, they saw your last presentation. This appears to be a positive update. What will make this financial year a successful one in terms of development, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, I can start this. So I think obviously the main focus for the company for the first number of months has been to deliver the rare earths drill program up in Ulster, particularly to show the district scale potential. So the real idea here is to package this as neatly as possible for a third party to ultimately come in and either partner with us on the project or to acquire the project. Aidan and the team have been doing great work up there to do this, and we think we're in a strong position now to really develop our initial conversations further. And then I think a key goal is really, as I've said a few times now, to bring in additional projects and have a number of different shots on goal. I think a number of in the green space in particular, it can be challenging if you're putting sort of all your eggs in one basket. So if we can have a number of shots on goal, it diversifies. It diversifies us and reduces the risk and hopefully makes us a more attractive proposition.
Yeah. And things, obviously, you're out in Sweden, Aidan. You got lots going on there. Is it a climate that is really good for transition there?
Yeah, well, Sweden is a great country to operate in. It's very efficient. Everything works very smoothly up here. So we've had no surprise, our drilling program went very smoothly and efficiently and was completed on time or ahead of schedule and under budget. So yeah, we're very much looking forward to the results and progressing the monetization discussions. I think it's been very positive. The key things that an incoming partner would like to see is scale of the project, which I think we can now show. We've de-risked the project through our works to date, which have been quite low cost. I mean, we've only spent less than 10% of what we raised at IPO on this project. And that I think will, help bring partners to the table to really review our geology model and the results when they come. I think we have the scale of the system now, but we await the assays, which are always what any incoming partner wants to see. But yeah, I'm very positive and encouraged by this initial drill program, and I'm sure that a partner will look at it and seriously and move it forward.
And presumably you always need to partner with someone because you'll have limited funds. So do you think you'll ever get to a stage where you can completely take on something just by yourself?
I know it's not our intention to take on resource assets ourselves, and the board has sort of made the decision to look for more cash generating business opportunities. It always was an opportunistic sort of company. Jack and his team and Cahill and their experiences to really identify undervalued assets or opportunities, and they could be businesses of any sort. But so we have a fairly wide remit across the green economy in Europe for that to really identify opportunities to create revenue and grow shareholder value significantly. So we did start out in resources, but we may well drift towards more cash generating opportunities sooner.
Yeah, I think Aidan, just to add to that. So I think the small guys, the junior exploration companies are really good at finding these opportunities and potentially probably not too good at developing them to commercialization. I think that's really where the big guys come in. So they have the balance sheet and they have the access to capital where they can actually develop these opportunities. So I think we've found a pretty good opportunity here. Aidan and the team have done some great work. Hopefully the results will show that when they come later this year, and then hopefully we'll be able to pass it on to the big guys, and retain some type of carried interest down the line. So we can sort of get a bit of a win now, and then hopefully some more down the line. So that's sort of the model we want to follow with our exploration assets.
Great, great. Well, there are no more questions, but once again, you're very much invited to come and join us either in London or in Derby, of course. And always great to see you. We saw you at our last show. Lots of the investors enjoy catching up with you. So good to see you now, and hopefully we'll see you at one of the live shows.
Thanks, David.
You do.
Great. Take care.